Melbourne is the largest city in the beautiful Australian state of Victoria. It's a pretty big city, about 5 million people, about the size of Toronto. Victoria, the state, has almost 7 million people in it. And like all of Australia, it has been pretty much spared the coronavirus, at least compared to much of the world. But then they decided to quarantine all returning travelers from overseas in a few select hotels. And they decided to guard that quarantine with security guards they found online for cheap. And wouldn't you know it, some of those online security guards and some of the quarantine travelers who were cooped up and bored, well, they started having sex. The guards, I'm using my quotation mark fingers. I mean, these were just people that answered help wanted online ads to be guards. And so I know this is shocking to hear. The government's solution actually made things worse. They managed to spread the virus. The Premier of Victoria State is a socialist named Dan Andrews. He's the worst. He's signing treaties and partnerships with communist China. He's not the Prime Minister of Australia, he's just the Premier of his state. But in the face of his own federal government's opposition to China, he's signing on to their Belt and Road Initiative. Here's a news clip of that.
The US Secretary of State has issued a stern warning about any deals done with China under its Belt and Road Initiative. The Victorian government has been criticised for refusing to release federal government advice about the state's contentious economic partnership with China. Secretary Pompeo says he isn't aware of the specific details relating to Victoria's Belt and Road Initiative, but warned the US would be prepared to disconnect if the deal adversely impacted America's national security.
Yeah, that snapped back pretty hard when Secretary Mike Pompeo weighed in. But it shows you what Dan Andrews is like. He's even worse than Justin Trudeau and our pro-communist foreign minister, Francois-Philippe Champagne, if you can believe it. He is in love with Xi Jinping, and he doesn't care who knows. So when he had this outbreak of the virus from his hotel sex strategy, online cheap security thing, well, who did he follow as a role model? Well, totalitarian, authoritarian Xi Jinping. I don't mean he issued a few tickets like we've seen in our Fight the Fines campaigns in Canada. You know, guys getting nuisance tickets, some people spending half an hour in a police car or 90 minutes in a police station. Those are terrible, and we're fighting those like crazy. But what they're doing in Victoria, Australia, is on a whole other level. In some ways, I think it's even worse than what China did to its own people. Let me read to you a series of tweets that sums up what they've done in Australia in this one state, and this is from a news reporter with a major network based in Melbourne. Now you tell me how this isn't exactly what martial law is. This is actually worse. So the first tweet is just the basic facts. Victoria has 439 new COVID-19 cases, 21,000 tests done yesterday, 456 Victorians in hospital, 38 Victorians in intensive care, and 11 new deaths, all in aged care. That's what they call seniors' homes. 1,186 active cases in aged care. Now, I'm sorry to hear about the 11 deaths. It's important to note that, like across the West, the death toll is overwhelmingly very old people who are locked up in old folks' homes. Poor air circulation, perhaps poor hygiene from workers who go from patient to patient or even facility to facility. I don't have the ages here, but in British Columbia, as we saw last week, the average age of the deceased is 85 years old. So we have 11 new deaths in a state of nearly 7 million people. I'm not happy about that. But it's 11 people in a state of 7 million. It's barely 1 in a million. Look at this. I'll read some more tweets from this reporter. Enforcement. 3,000 door knocks conducted. More than 800 people weren't home. Exercise is now banned for people isolating. 500 plus ADF coming to Victoria. That's Australian Defence Forces. Close contacts of known cases will be door knocked randomly too. New $4,957 fines for individuals who breach isolation. So you're literally sending armed soldiers to the homes of people who are sick. Oh, and to their friends. What are you doing that for again? $5,000 fines for people who step outside of their house? As we've told you before, the virus does not transmit outdoors through casual contact. It transmits in the house. That's why all 11 deaths are seniors in a stuffed-up seniors' home. Seniors who aren't allowed to go out and about. No one gets the virus from being out and about. You're literally sentencing people to stay in houses or apartments, some of which are tiny, and you think this is going to make fewer cases? And a $5,000 fine? So bankruptcy for the average Joe. The average bloke can't afford a $5,000 fine. You'll scare some people with that number, but you'll make other people even more desperate. And look at this. This is the next tweet in this series. Work permits. Piece of paper signed by employer and employee. Must be carried with you. Shown to officers if pulled over. Easily identifiable, essential workers, nurses, cops, etc. can use their current work ID. Paperwork will be online later today. There's some irony there in that all healthcare has been ground to a halt, except extreme emergencies. So the hospitals will be empty, just as they are here. So expect lots of cancer, cataracts, heart disease, strokes, whatever. Expect a lot of those things to rise while we chase the virus that has 11 deaths. Recent fines, 161 fines issued, 60 for no masks. Someone bought a car after 8 p.m. Well, you know the virus can tell. If you buy the car at 7:59, virus don't mind. You buy a car at 8 p.m., virus minds. Oh, get this. Police had to smash windows of 4 cars after occupants refused to give details. 38-year-old woman not wearing a mask smashed policewoman's head into concrete. She's being charged and bailed. Did you get that? Police had to smash windows of 4 cars. I mean, they absolutely had to, guys. Come on, guys. They had to smash the windows. Public health depended on it. The virus made me do it. So someone's in the car, windows rolled up. Chance of spreading the virus, 0. But better smash the glass, for health reasons, you see. Were there kids in the car? Did the person get glass shards? Well, who cares? Look, this is for their health, you see. And their trust in police, that's going to rise, isn't it? I can see why that Premier Dan Andrews, I can see why he loves China. He's acting like a communist dictator himself. That's an excerpt from my daily show, The Ezra Levant Show. Every day I do a monologue on the news of the day, then I interview an interesting guest, and then I read my hate mail. You gotta subscribe. Go to rebelnews.com.